The Xenobiology lecture hall of the Vorkanian Institute of Higher Cognition went silent in the way only imminent disaster can enforce. One moment, Professor Croth was mid-sentence, lecturing about apex predator containment failures. The next, the energy field surrounding the reinforced observation cage sputtered, flickered, and died with an unmistakable crack. Inside the cage, something massive shifted. 8 feet of armored nightmare uncoiled with deliberate grace, its segmented body scraping against the metal floor. The Vorkanian Death-Stalker had awakened. Its chitinous plating reflected the hall's lights like polished obsidian. 6 jointed limbs ended in hooked talons capable of slicing starship hulls. A narrow, triangular head lifted, crystalline fangs parting as venom dripped in slow, luminous strands. The creature inhaled, tasting the air. Fear flooded the room. 27 students from 14 species recoiled in unison, slamming against the rear wall. A Jalathi dissolved into a panicked semi-liquid puddle. 2 Avarnites locked their wings tight against their bodies. Even the heavily armored Threxian exchange student took a step back, mandibles clattering. Professor Crotha's frill flared in terror as he reached for the emergency beacon. "Do not move," he hissed through the translator. "The Death-Stalker detects pheromonal stress and microvibrational." The creature turned its head toward him. Slowly. Precisely. Its limbs flexed. Screams died in throats. And then, impossibly, the front row remained seated. A human female calmly adjusted her recording visor, eyes wide with fascination rather than fear. Beside her, a human male leaned forward, elbows on his knees, studying the creature with open curiosity. His expression wasn't brave. It wasn't reckless. It was thoughtful. "Incredible," the woman murmured. "Look at the thoracic expansion. It's assessing threats, not hunting." The male nodded. "Yeah. It's confused." Professor Croth stared. "Confused?" Before anyone could stop him, the human raised his hand. "Excuse me, Professor," he said politely. "Quick question." The Death-Stalker's head tilted. "Yes." Croth croaked. The human glanced at the creature, then back at the instructor. "Can I pet it?" The question landed like a physical blow. Several students fainted outright. A Silurian let out a strangled noise and began reciting a death prayer. Professor Crotha's translator hesitated, as if hoping the phrase had been mistranslated. "You wish to touch the Death-Stalker?" he asked weakly. The human stood. "Yes, sir." "This is insanity," someone whispered from the back. "That creature wiped out an entire security platoon on Rel Station. They charged it with weapons," the human replied calmly, taking a slow step toward the breached enclosure. The Death-Stalker tracked his movement but did not strike. Predators respond to intent. That's basic ecology. The human woman's eyes lit up. "He's right. Terran mammals evolved alongside megafauna. Our threat responses don't trigger the same biochemical cues as standard galactic species." Fear pheromones saturated the hall. The Death-Stalker's limbs twitched, uncertain. Its head lowered slightly, scenting the air. When it focused on the human, something changed. Its posture eased. The claws loosened. Professor Croth whispered, "Humans, stop where you are." "I will," the man said gently. "If it tells me to." The creature emitted a low, resonant sound. Not a hiss. Not a roar. A vibration that rolled through the floor. Curiosity. The human extended his hand, palm up, fingers relaxed. Every instinct in the room screamed that he would lose it instantly. Instead, the Death-Stalker leaned forward. One massive claw reached out, barely brushing the human's skin. The contact was brief, exploratory. The creature withdrew. Then remained still. A collective breath was released. "In 43 cycles," Professor Croth whispered, "no species has ever approached a Death-Stalker without provoking violence." The human smiled faintly. "We don't start with dominance." He stepped closer. This time the Death-Stalker did not retreat. Its head lowered until it was level with the human's chest. Slowly, carefully, the man placed his hand on the armored crown. The Death-Stalker leaned into the touch. A deep, rhythmic purring filled the hall. "That's it," the human murmured. "You're safe." The galaxy's most lethal predator folded its limbs beneath itself and settled onto the floor, eyes half-lidded, content. Silence reigned, broken only by the steady, almost musical purr resonating through the lecture hall. Students stared in disbelief as the Death-Stalker remained motionless beneath the human's touch. The armored horror that moments ago promised annihilation now resembled something startlingly peaceful. Professor Croth lowered his clawed hand from the emergency beacon, frill slowly relaxing. "Extraordinary," he breathed. "It has accepted you." The human glanced back at the room. Anyone else want to try? Slowly. No one moved. The human woman finally stood, recording forgotten. Humans have a pattern, she said softly. We see behavior, not legends. Wolves, horses, apex predators that others fled from. We studied. We listened. The Death-Stalker shifted, pressing its massive head more firmly against the human's palm. Its purr deepened, vibrating through the structure of the building itself. Sensors later recorded a measurable reduction in stress hormones within the creature's system. Professor Croth straightened. This explains much, he said. Why human colonies coexist with entities we classify as uncontainable. Why your species survives frontier zones no one else will enter. The human shrugged slightly. Most things don't want to kill you. They want to not be afraid. Eventually, containment teams arrived. The energy field was restored without incident. The Death-Stalker did not resist as it was guided back into stasis. Before the field sealed, it turned its head once more toward the human, releasing a final rumbling purr. The story spread. Across research institutes, military academies, and diplomatic circles, the footage was replayed endlessly. Xenopsychology textbooks added a new chapter. Command schools added a warning. Humans do not always escalate. They investigate. The phrase became infamous. Can I pet it? It came to symbolize a uniquely human danger. Not violence but empathy applied without fear. Where others saw extinction events waiting to happen, humans saw misunderstood variables. Potential bonds. Back in the lecture hall, long after the students dispersed, Professor Croth remained staring at the sealed enclosure. We teach that fear keeps us alive, he murmured. The human paused at the doorway. Sometimes, he replied. Sometimes it just keeps us alone. And somewhere in stasis, the galaxy's deadliest predator dreamed, perhaps for the first time, of gentle hands instead of enemy.